Welcome to Business Mentorship, Keeping It Real. My name is Trish Tonai, where we feature entrepreneurs and enterprise leaders who participate in shareyourstories.online. Today, I'd like to introduce you to Jim Fitzpatrick, who is an artist, a photographer, and an author. And Jim joins us for the sunny state of California. And we're going to talk today about how he was able to build this amazing online gallery that's actually had over 1 million visitors. Welcome.
Hi, Trish. I'm honored to be on. Thanks very much for having me.
Well, first of all, I need to congratulate you for the feature in the 10th anniversary edition of Art Tour International magazine. That's I know that you've received many accolades from them, so congratulations on that feature.
Oh, thank you so much. And yeah, I mean, I owe a lot to Viviana, her husband, Alan, Yadira, Jillian, and everybody from Art Tour International. They've been great, and they've been huge support for me.
You know, they're a really great group of folks. And you know what? It's all about helping each other and trying to support each other and sharing great ideas. So I'm really thrilled that you're able to join us today and sort of share some of your thoughts. Now, tell me a little bit about how you were able to build this online gallery. I took a look at it and it's like, wow, amazing.
Well, I had no idea any of this was going to, fall together like this. After I retired from the fire department, having art and photography to fall back on has been a blessing to me, especially when I was going through a lot of really hard issues with chronic pain, and it was a great diversion. And I mean, even now with this virus and stuff being locked up, I mean, it's a huge blessing. And it's kind of sad when you see other people struggling, and they don't have like a hobby, or they don't have something to rely on, to fall back on, to distract them, to be creative, and so on. So, but make a long story short, I just started uploading a few of my works originally on the Fine Art America site. And suddenly I started getting comments on the works, which was motivational. And then eventually I hooked up with Art Tour International and Viviana, and with their huge platform and exposure, suddenly I started looking every day. I go, I got to stop looking every day because it's addicting, because the numbers were really like starting to boom. And then suddenly, 1,000 I thought was great. And then suddenly 10,000. And then for the last couple of years, it really took off. But I also kept increasing the number of works that I have online also.
Yeah. So how would you describe your artistic style? Because I know that photography is, a little bit different. We can choose different subject matter like people or landscapes or, florals, but how would you actually describe your artistic talent?
Well, a lot of people say that they're self-taught, and that's how I was. I remember my mom, when I was really young, I guess she saw me drawing a lot, and she wanted me to take a class, and somebody wanted to teach me how to draw a vase. And I just, I mean, there's beautiful works of vases, but it was just, I had no interest in that.
Thing. Yeah.
And I always had, even though my style is very different than Norman Rockwell's, I just loved his works and the expressions he caught on people's faces. So I was always, that was always my interest, portraits. And I started out with pencil, and then I started experimenting with pastel and charcoal and so on. And then now with the computers and the digital stuff that you can add in. And I was never much for drawing backgrounds. So a lot of times I'll take my photograph and I'll incorporate my drawing in front of it. So I have a background and kind of tell a story. So it's kind of evolving.
So, I took a look when I was on your website, you've had some really amazing people that you've actually met in person. So, I mean, I know that we do some works of people that inspire us, but you've actually really had a wonderful, career of meeting some really awesome people. So why don't you tell us how you've been able to make those connections? Because I mean, just even having those folks in your network is really awesome.
Well, I had another passion growing up, and it was to become, of all things, a professional roller derby skater. And a lot of times, I guess when people get older, it's like, I want to be an astronaut, or I want to be a football player, or whatever. They kind of grow out of it, and they look back later in life and wish they did it. And it was something I was driven to do, and I got to live out that dream. So we got to travel around the world and go to different events. So I got to meet a lot of famous people, like Mike Tyson was one. And actually, I showed one of his representatives some of my works. So when he came out, they set it up for me to have an art exhibition of my works with him. And he was an interesting person because, I mean, he has a lot of demons, but I got to see a whole other side of him. There was an individual that showed up, rather tall individual. His skin coloring didn't look quite right, and he was dying from some rarest form of cancer. And Mike Tyson was his idol. And when he was introduced to Tyson, this was before the doors opened to the public, the guy almost broke down, and Tyson must have embraced him for 5 minutes, comforting the guy, and the guy was crying in his arms. So I got to see another side of him, and that was pretty powerful.
Oh, for sure. That's really awesome.
Yeah.
So, you know, when I was reading your bio on your website, you've had a really amazing career or a life experience to this particular point in time. So I know that you mentioned that you retired from firefighting and then you sort of explored your artistic talent more seriously. But
Right.
were you actually drawing and doing photography throughout your sort of all of your life experience, or did you actually just sort of flip the switch after you retired?
Well, it was when I was a small boy growing up, I drew a lot. And then kind of going into high school, I got into other things. And I did notice over the years, if I was going through a bad period of time, I would start to draw again for a little bit, but then I'd put it down again. I'd get into something else, start working, or I'd be traveling with the roller derby when I was skating, or so on. But afterwards was when I got into it full board. But it was interesting. Before I got into the fire department, after I stopped skating, I was initially hired in the police department. And they started to train me right before I got promoted and went into the fire department as the guy that when somebody comes in to describe the suspect.
Oh, you drew the photos.
Well, I was learning how, because at that point they had it now a system where instead of you drawing, they had all these cards on file, depending on like type of nose, type of cheek, type of forehead, and so on. And then you kind of put them together, but you kind of still needed some type of artistic sense to it. And I go, that it's too bad I couldn't have pursued that some more. That would have been really interesting. But then I went into the fire department, and then that opened doors as an inspector, going to fire scenes and different scenes where I was taking photographs. And so actually I got one of my it was published on National Geographic site. It was at a fire, but the strange thing was it was with a cheap camera that they issued me. And now I have this expensive lens that's over $1,000, an expensive camera, and the one that I get in National Geographic's was a little cheap camera that they gave me.
It's funny. We just never know when things in life are going to take us in a whole different direction, right? I'm sure you remember those. Remember those disposable cameras you used to be able to get, and you took in the film and they processed it. I can remember, going on trips and taking photographs with that sort of camera. So you just never know.
Well, I even remember the ones before that where the thing would shoot out and you'd peel it off after so many minutes. It would slowly, hopefully develop.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So for the future, Jim, where do you see yourself going in the next sort of 5 to 10 years with your artistic career? Are you leaning a little bit more towards the actual drawing, or are you leaning towards the photography?
Actually, it's like I'm kind of torn. I love them both. And I also love now, because of the computer, the things that you can do with these programs, how you can combine things. And you can take a photograph and just take it into a whole different, range, the tints and everything else, bring out the shadows and so on. But the other thing was I was always set for the drawing. I wanted to try and look as realistic as possible. And I hopefully I keep improving at that. But Viviana started getting me thinking about these other things, all these causes and so on. And I have my political views, everybody does, but I started doing a couple that actually did kind of have a theme, because I want my theme to be more like it brings people together. And also what I noticed is there's a lot of stuff that's people are saying, these sound bites that can either get their side excited or the other side furious, but it's like the sound bite is not telling the whole story. And that's why one of my more recent works was one of Ray Charles. and it's in black and white. It's graphite, but where his glasses are, even though he was blind, but I have the reflection of the flag in color, the United States flag, because
Oh,
everything,
that's cool.
yeah, because everything is so negative about our country nowadays. And it's like, well, he grew up in the South. He grew up in a very racial, time, a lot of depression and, everything else that was going on. And if you ever watch him perform America the Beautiful, it's like you see how much the guy loves the country. And even though it's not because he couldn't see, but using the words, he could see
to express.
yeah, that there were things improving, just like Muhammad Ali. I did one of him, and I was surprised that some people only know the story where he threw the medals in the water or the lake or whatever because he was so upset with the country. But later he was given medals again, and he was an Olympic torchbearer late in his life. And he said one of his favorite songs is one of my favorite singers, Neil Diamond's "Coming to America."
Oh, how cool.
They don't tell the whole story, and that's why I want things to be positive, so that people aren't always like upset and angry and depressed, and so I want to kind of put that into some of my works too.
Well, the really lovely thing about art is it's not only a visual experience, but it conveys a lot of emotion in the things that we feel when we see the pieces. And I can certainly say that when folks visit your website, Jim, there really is a number of amazing, very emotional works. So congratulations to you for all of those efforts. One of the things that we do as part of the Share Your Story series is we ask folks to share 3 words of advice when they're a contributor on our guest blog. And I have to tell you, I love your 3 words of advice, which are avoid negative people. So tell me why you chose those 3 words to sort of leave as as part of your guest blog on the site.
Well, what I noticed is that, as I was trying to get my art site to grow with the visitors and so on, and so you post it on different sites like Twitter and so on, and then you'll see other people, they're posting these amazing things or, really cute animals, but then you see this whole group of people that everything is just negative. They're just fighting, and then somebody else has to respond there back, and it's like, why are they wasting their time arguing with somebody that's,
in cyberspace.
Yeah. And also some people are, I guess they're emboldened because of the fact that they can fight safely from their computer keyboard. And it's like, you know what, life is too short, especially now that I'm getting pretty old. Why not just, focus on positive things that you like.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Jim, I really want to thank you for sharing, some of the insights that you've had into not only your journey as an artist, but your journey and the various different things that you've shared in your career. So congratulations to you on your accomplishments thus far. And I know that all of the folks in our viewing and listening audience will really appreciate following your career and seeing some of those really amazing images that you share.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that, Trish. Thanks.
So to our viewing and listening audience, thank you for joining us once again as we introduce you to the person behind the logo in this edition of Business Mentorship, Keeping It Real. And we invite you to share your story on our website. Thank you so much for joining us.